when they get in there, what they realize, these progressives, is they cleared this major hurdle by primarying out, a corporate Democrat, a centrist Democrat. And then they realize when they get in there, the bar is so much lower than that, because now all they have to do is attack Republicans. So they find the cartoonish Republicans that they can dunk on, and they dunk on them. And that, in their mind, constitutes a fight. There was just a video you talked about, Thomas Massey. I believe that's who Jamal Bowman just got into a screaming match with. I saw that pop up on my feed.
Congressional Hall, was that where that was? Or something?
Yeah, it was about gun control, right?
Yeah.
So that's a moment where he gets to show his constituents what a fighter he is by getting in this guy's face and screaming about how he takes NRA money, right? That's what passes for a fighter in the Democratic Party, even to the progressive base. They love that shit. There's no pressure on them to take things to the next level and start turning the screws on the system for gains like universal health care.
Right? I want that.
There's just no example. There's just no incentive for that, because now that they won, they're not running against the corporate Democrat anymore. They're in, they're there, they're getting the money coming in, right? But now they got all these Republicans they can dunk on, and they look great doing it, so they'll continue to.
But therein lies the rub when it comes to the gun issue. The big issue that no one wants to talk about, the biggest one of all, is that society is breaking down. People don't fucking care anymore.
No.
They are willing to kill people because the world is a shit place to live in for so many of them that they just don't care. Yeah. And they don't want to have that conversation because it's the economic anxiety that over 100 million people in this country face every day, and they don't want to talk about the fact. You're lucky that there isn't a mass shooting every hour of every day.
I'm not sure that there's not.
So you're getting to the point where you really have to understand that there is a level of desperation. Listen, did the trans shooter shoot up a Christian school?
Why do we have to mention who that is?
I'm only mentioning it because in context of why did it happen? Well, whatever their reasoning is, they get to a breaking point where they're like, no, let's just kill people.
I have a question for you. Is it a biological male? Because if it's a biological male, then that is case in point, all of these shootings. Sorry, all men.
All right, Jen. You're having a very different treatment of that shooting than you have when, say, your conservative straight white male does it, where they want to blame Tucker Carlson when that happens, right? Yeah. So why aren't you blaming the very extreme rhetoric coming from certain trans activists about people who have differences of opinion, even liberal people who have differences of opinion about youth transition, this kind of thing, as committing a genocide, literally committing a genocide? Now, if you're going to blame Tucker Carlson when a Christian, white, conservative, whatever does this, well, then you should be blaming those trans activists for this, right? Now, to be clear, I don't think you should be blaming either. I think it's a very dangerous precedent to connect speech to what random acts of violence people commit.
Oh, I don't
because
ever
of that speech.
I don't ever do that.
But they do it anytime. Can you imagine if this shooting had been some straight white male, right? It would go right to Tucker. Oh, look at this. Look at what Tucker said on his show. So why aren't we talking about trans activists who are threatening to rape and kill J.K. Rowling? Are they responsible for this shooting? Do you know that there were multiple swattings of Christian schools the next day, today? Are they talking about that? And are they blaming those activists and their rhetoric for that?
They want a country divided and wanting to kill each other because it's easier to maintain the system that is screwing us all, because it's easier to do it that way rather than say maybe the system's broken and that because we have 300 million guns in this country or whatever the number is. It's like when you see Shannon Watts go on CNN, it's like this is only going to piss people off more. This is not going to reduce the tension. This is only going to.
They just don't know what to do with it, and they love to fundraise off of it like they do with Roe v. Wade. Gun control is like one of the Democrats' best fundraising.
But if you look at the biggest voices, the people who are always on national television regarding this particular issue, it is always the most privileged people in society that have in these positions.
Oh, yeah. So the one kind of privilege they never mention is class privilege.
Well, of course.
They talk about every other kind of privilege, never class privilege.
Shannon Watts is one person in particular who I have a level of disdain for when it comes to these political talking heads that I cannot even wrap my head around. She is as big of a Hillary supporter as anybody there is in the political sphere. She is always at these super high level fundraisers for the Democratic Party. It goes without saying that is the embodiment of the party elite that the average person in this country cannot stand, will never stand, and wants nothing to do with them. The Democratic Party, if they were the voice of the unions and labor, if that was the voice of the party, then we would be having a completely different conversation. The voice of the party today are the people who live in New York City and San Francisco. That is the voice of the party. That is the direction.
Which is the Republican critique.
It very much so. Now, so how do we change that? I'm not entirely sure.
It isn't by banning assault weapons.
Well, no, that's not going to solve the problem. There's too many weapons out there.
Besides, with society breaking down, don't you want to be able to get a gun?
Okay, first of all, I personally
that's actually no. I mean, look, you make that as a joke, but that actually is the heart of the issue right there.
Yes,
is like, yes, guns are part of the problem. Of course, they are a big part of the problem. But the reason you have so many guns is because you have a violent culture. So you have a violent culture in which people feel a need to arm themselves. And then the fact that they arm themselves makes the culture even more violent. Right.
Well, it's that.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So like the guns are not the cause or the effect. The guns are the symptom. The guns are the symptom. People turn to guns because we have a violent culture that is now collapsing all around us.
Yeah, I would also argue that you can't have a country where the only thing we make is weapons and arms. The military-industrial complex, like you can't be the complete vision of violence globally and not expect violence at home.
To me,
that's Chris Hedges. You know, if you read his last book, I believe it was his last book, America: The Farewell Tour. He really got into that. How I don't think people who live in states like New York, like us, I don't know how aware we are of that arms manufacturing is like one of the only reliable manufacturing jobs left in the United States.
That's all we do.
And if we really reformed our military, it would throw all these people out of work. Like it's a jobs program building all these weapons.
Well, and all of everything that we sell overseas is that. That's it. That's what we have. So for people to think that you're going to ban something that is the only thing that we make anymore, you're nuts. You're nuts.
Well, we also export. We don't just export the guns. We export the violence. We export the abusive policing of other peoples around the world. And this is where the rubber really hits the road, especially this week where you have these French protests that are very successful and very rowdy, right? In some cases, even quite violent. People here in the States think, well, if we give up our guns, we're not going to have a check on the governments. Well, look at France. The French people are not packing, right?
Yeah.
Some of the cops in France are armed, not all of them, but the national ones are, and they have been deployed. And you see violent clashes between the cops and the ordinary people of France. The ordinary people of France have very, very few guns, but they are still able to disrupt and they are still able to affect the system. The difference is France is not the dominant imperial power on this earth anymore. They don't abuse people around the world. They don't enforce their will around the world through force and threats, whereas we do. And our policing reflects that. We have a militarized police here at home to the point where an unarmed population here, we would get crushed by the cops because the cops here mirror our international police state.
Literally.
Right? Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.